The Bridgewater Triangle. Paranormal investigators.
Welcome back, ghouls and ghoulettes, to the show. And tonight I wanted to talk about everyone's favorite go-to place to explore within the Bridgewater Triangle, and that is the Freetown State Forest that sits in the southeast corner of the triangle. This 5,000-acre forest includes 25 miles of trails for hiking, horseback riding, and off-roading, and it's also the most scariest forest in the state of Massachusetts, with its cult activity that took place in the 1970s and 80s, and with the urban legend of the pukwudgies. So let's dive right into it. The first 323 acres was purchased by the state of Massachusetts in the year 1934. Then later on, the remainder of the forest was purchased in 1935. Now, the Native Americans believe that the horrible crimes that happen in the forest will not stop until the tribe is given back their land. And there's been a lot of crimes that happened out there in the state forest, starting with devil worshippers. In the early 1970s, a Freetown police officer noticed a group of individuals coming out of the state forest wearing long robes. However, they were just dismissed as leftover hippies from the 60s. Local farmers reported the disappearance of their cows and other animals that were found slaughtered in the forest, used as sacrifices. This actually sparked the interest with the police into investigating. In 1979, the remains of prostitute Doreen Levesque were found behind the bleachers of Diamond Regional Vocational High School in Freetown. Her cruel death was in a ritualistic murder fashion, with her hands tied behind her back and her skull caved in. 3 months later, another prostitute was found dead in the same fashion. After, police got leads that cult rituals were being taken place in the state forest. Police finally ended up arresting 2 leaders in satanic rites. 17-year-old prostitute Robin Murphy and 25-year-old pimp Carl Drew were taken into custody. Robin agreed to testify against Carl in exchange for parole. Carl was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the string of murders. Later on, a hut was found in the state forest with all kinds of cult paraphernalia inside, including a doll that was nailed to a tree, but the police can never prove that this hut belonged to Carl Drew. Satanic rituals continued on throughout the years in the forest. In the late 1980s, a bunch of juveniles dug up human remains from a nearby cemetery. The head was cut off. They believed by drinking out of a human skull, they would gain powers, but the smell was so bad that they ended up tossing the skull into the bushes. Now, in 2021, when we investigated the forest, we found a Wiccan star made out of twigs hanging from a tree. We were under the impression that it was just a bunch of kids playing a prank or cult enthusiasts. However, deeper in the woods, we found the remains of a ritual that just took place. They had sage, incense burning, and a bell, which I guess is for calling the corners when casting a spell. They had the candles aligned in the shape of a Wiccan star, a green candle in the north for earth, a blue candle in the west for water, a yellow candle in the east for air, a red candle in the south for fire, and a black candle in the center representing death. And small amounts of blood, which tells me they were using a small animal, such as a bird or a mouse maybe, as a sacrifice. And to top it off, it was during a full moon, which is the best time to cast any kind of spell or hold any ritual. Now, they could have been just teenagers. However, you still have to take them kind of seriously. We didn't know how many of them were out there or what they had for weapons. They could have had knives or guns for all we know. So I put 911 on speed dial, I shut off the light from my camera, and we just booked it out of there. And by the way, I have the full video on that investigation in Freetown State Forest, which I'll link in the description below. Satanic-related crimes also took place in the forest. In 1978, 15-year-old Raynham resident Mary Lou Aruda was out riding her bike when she was knocked off and kidnapped. Later on, she was found dead, tied to a tree in Freetown State Forest. 32-year-old James Cater was brought in for questioning. He had just gotten out of prison a couple years prior for the kidnapping of a child. Witnesses seen his car in the area where Mary Lou was knocked off her bicycle. A cigarette butt of the same brand that police found in Cater's car was found in the area where Mary went missing. So James Cater was arrested. Now, during his trial, his attorney tried to play it off like this was the works of some kind of cult activity, but the jury wasn't having it. So finally, Cater was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. A popular attraction in the forest is the Assonet Ledge. Witnesses claim they see ghosts of Native Americans jumping off. Now, the theory behind this phenomena is that these are ghostly Wampanoags who still believe that they are running from colonial soldiers during King Philip's War. But you have to dismiss these allegations, considering how the ledge didn't exist in the 17th century. The ledge was formed in the 1800s and was part of a granite quarry. A lot of the stones was used in the construction of Fall River's mills and the Taunton State Hospital. But there is a ghostly legend that takes place on the ledge. Witnesses encountered the Lady in White, who is seen jumping off the ledge and disappears right before she hits the water. The story behind this tale is that a woman in the 1940s, possibly the 1950s, was supposed to meet her lover at the top of the ledge one day for a picnic. But her boyfriend's parents didn't approve of their relationship, so they had kept him from her. Now the woman was so devastated for being stood up, she then leaped to her death. Now some of you are probably thinking this is just a folklore, but the story could just have some kernel of truth behind it. This woman's negative energy may have just left its mark on the Assonet Ledge. Many visitors will go to the top of the ledge feeling happy, with no symptoms of mental illness, but suddenly get the urge to commit suicide, and then they jump off, leaping to a watery grave. Now be aware, lurking through the forest is the pukwudgies, known in other states as skinwalkers. They are 3-foot troll-like creatures. They carry poisonous spears. They are known to shapeshift and be sneaky. They will make you think they are helping you, but instead leading you into a trap, causing death. These creatures were a part of the Native American tribe, dating back tens of thousands of years ago. The pukwudgies were friends with the Wampanoags. They tried to assist the natives in their daily routines, but they always got in the way. They were very clumsy. They kind of reminded me of Gilligan, always being a klutz, ruining the castaways' chances for any kind of rescue off the island. Now, personally, if it was me, I would have taken Gilligan to the lagoon and hit him over the head with a coconut, but the natives didn't take that approach. Instead, they casted the pukwudgies from their tribe. This left the pukwudgies very angry. Since then, they resented any form of human life. They made a pact to get revenge on the natives, torturing their tribe. So one day the natives went to a giant named Moshop, who was actually the creator god of the pukwudgies, and they asked for his help. So Moshop went off on his way to deal with these creatures by picking them up and shaking them until they lost consciousness. Then he would toss them all around New England. Now, there's two different endings to the story. One states that the pukwudgies came back strong and shot down Moshop with their poisonous spears. The other ending of the story states that Moshop actually defeated the pukwudgies and then went off to die somewhere after being wounded in battle. Either or, Moshop disappeared from Native American folklore right after. So, do these pukwudgies still exist? Well, no one has actually seen them in the state forest. The only sighting actually was in the town of Rainham in the early 1990s when Bill Russo had his encounter when he was out late one night walking his dog. Which, by the way, I will link the interview that I had with Bill in the description below, so make sure to check it out. Another popular spot in the Freetown State Forest is Profile Rock, a granite formed by a glacier over 10,000 years ago. The Wampanoags called it the Assonet, which meant hill of rocks. Yeah, I know, kind of tacky, but who am I to judge? It was discovered in the year 1860 when someone passing through on a train stopped at the Assonet Depot. The Wampanoags believed that this giant boulder was the face of their great sachem, Chief Massasoit. So if you're planning on venturing out to see Profile Rock, well, a little heads up, don't bother wasting your time. Unfortunately, it had fallen in June of 2019, and all that's left is the rubble. Running through the Freetown State Forest is Copacabana Road. Victims who drive down that road know all too well of the legend of the mad trucker. Motorists will be driving when suddenly up ahead they'll spot an oncoming black pickup truck with its high beams on, blaring its air horn. As the black pickup truck drives closer to the motorist, it will force its victim off the road. The driver will then look back, petrified, only to see that the pickup truck mysteriously disappeared. We actually did an investigation on this road trying to find this mad trucker, but unfortunately we only made it about 1/8 of a mile and I had to turn around, considering how the road started to get real rough and I was driving a Grand Marquis at the time and, well, I didn't want to bottom out. So before I end this video, I just want to talk about a popular misconception with Freetown State Forest. No, it is not part of the Hockomock, even though many believe that it is. I actually tried to correct the popular YouTubers, Twin Paranormal, with their video when they kept overlapping the two, but I was told by them that I don't know what I was talking about. So hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy behind a microphone. And real fast, I just wanted to mention about a popular folklore that even I believed to be true, but it was actually debunked. It was said that late one night, Ronald Reagan was flying his personal plane over the state forest and suddenly saw a UFO in the sky. Although the claim is true, however, his UFO sighting was in California, not Massachusetts. However, people have reported strange metallic sounds and what sounds like a generator running in the forest. We also heard what sounded like a generator when we were out there, and this is going back now to 2020. And after investigating the area, there was no signs of anyone around camping. I actually have that clip from that video archived that I will eventually release after further research. So what's everyone's thoughts? Is Freetown State Forest one big area to harness supernatural energy? That is the belief of many on why devil worshippers and cults practice in the state forest. But also take into consideration that in the 1960s, many disagreed with the current political status. We had the protest against the Vietnam War, the introduction of LSD drugs. There was a big movement that caused the spread of non-traditional religion such as Wicca, and Wiccans have a love for nature. So that may explain this group of individuals coming out of the state forest wearing long robes in the early 1970s. So these devil worshippers may have adapted the Wiccan ways into their practices, thinking that the state forest is one big hotspot to gain evil powers.